Alright everyone, we're back and pretty stoked about this one because Alan Perez suggested that I make a predator mask. So I'd been thinking about doing one for quite a while and I was kind of excited to finally get to do this one. Now this video will be a little bit longer than my usual videos because there are a lot of different pieces that have to go together and that you'll have to make. So I am going to suggest watch the video to the end, rewatch it, watch certain aspects, and when you make this, just take your time. So here you see me putting on the first layer of foam. Now for the predator, and I always suggest to you guys, look at the reference picture because just trying to do it on your own, it's not going to come out as well. Trust me, I've tried it. They don't come out well. Look at a good reference picture. So here I've got the first layer of foam on, and I've let it dry after spraying it with water for about 5 minutes, and I'm just going through and just kind of compressing the foam at this point. Now the little bump on top of the head, this is actually gonna let his top plate set up because the Predator's kind of got a unique profile. And the mouth, you really want to look at your reference picture because he doesn't really have a nose. He's just kind of got an open mouth area. So here I'm just taking an old pool noodle and I'm just kind of smoothing out the skin, if you will, because I don't want it really bumpy. Because your foam is going to continue to expand even after maybe 10-15 minutes. It's still going to expand even though it feels kind of stiff. So this just kind of really does help compress your foam. So here I'm just putting in the brow. The Predator really has a scowling look. So I'm just really going through, taking my time, and you can kind of see how I've built up the mouth. So here, I'm just using just a plastic paint stick, if you will. And all I'm doing is just kind of adding in a few details at this point. And again, I'm just smoothing out the skin with a pool noodle. And before your mask gets completely hard, you want to take it off. And you'll see me try it on here. So here you can kind of see the mouth detail a little bit. So now, moving on to try something new. I found kind of an oval shape. It's just an old plastic container I had in the garage, and I just wrapped it in plastic wrap. And it was kind of the shape I wanted. If you look at a Predator, the top of his head actually almost looks kind of like a turtle shell. So I thought, well, this is something new. I'm going to try it. If it doesn't work, I'll go back to the drawing board. And you'll see how I do it here. It actually came out great. So here I just mixed it with water and again, let it set about 5 to 6 minutes. And all I'm doing is compressing the foam because I really want the top of his head to be fairly compressed, if you will. And I'm going to go through and I'm actually going to make a lot of the impressions just with my fingers. And you'll see what I'm talking about. He kind of has this scalloped, almost clamshell effect, if you will. So again, just using an old piece of pool noodle and just really smoothing out. Again, this just helps compress the foam. And you can use your fingers, you can use your hands. I just found, for me, this is a lot easier. So really all I'm doing here is just making sure I've kind of got the shape that I want. Now the predator has this crease up the middle of his head. So that's all I'm doing is I'm just taking my finger and just making a crease. And it doesn't have to be super deep. Again, look at your reference picture. So here in a little bit, you're going to see how I do the clamshell effect, if you will. So again, I'm just really taking my time, smoothing it out. You really want to try to get this piece the best that you can, because this is going to set off the whole predator feel, if you will. So here you see me making that scalloped look on the outside. And all I'm doing is just pressing in a little bit harder with my thumb, but I'm doing it at an angle. Hopefully you guys can see that a little bit. Because when this dries, that shape will stay in there. So again, just take your time and just really look at your reference picture. And I know I say that a lot, but trust me, everyone, if you got that reference picture, it's going to help you so much when you make these masks. And again, all I'm doing is just pressing it in and trying to get it close. But here you can kind of see how it looks overall. So after about 5 minutes, there you can kind of see that scallop shape I was talking about. And I was pretty stoked. I was like, wow, I should have thought of this earlier. So here, I'm just kind of checking how it looks. And just kind of bending it over at the edges a little bit. It's not fully hard at this point. So here, I'm just really looking to see where I want to put it. And I want it to go a little bit lower. Pretty much right almost down to the eyes. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to trim up the front of it a little bit, just because I want it to just really take on the shape down toward the point of the eyes. And you'll see what I'm talking about. Basically, I'm just going to cut out a little triangle in the front. And when I glue it on, this is going to help. So I just glued it on with some hot glue. Now these two pieces, I just sprayed out a little bit of foam. And these are going to be the two pieces on his cheeks, if you will. Now he's got teeth coming out the top and teeth coming out the bottom, but then he's got this flappy piece of skin in between. So what I did is just kind of made a C shape, and I left a raised area around the outside. Now I did really compress the foam in just to give it that flappy, stretched skin look, if you will. And just take your time, look at your pictures, your reference pictures that you've pulled up on your phone, and just really try to get the shape. Again, you've got about 5 to 10 minutes before this really starts to get stiff. And I'm just kind of checking how I want it to go. Now here, I'm just pushing in a little hole, if you will, or a depression for where his teeth will go. And then I'm just kind of checking to see if I like how it's going to fit. So I took scissors and just kind of trimmed it up. And again, I'm just checking to make sure I like how it's going to look. Now these pieces will get stiff and hard. So here, if in the back of the head, so we're going to fill in this area with foam. Now before we do that, I'm going to suggest that you trim your mask a little bit, especially kind of around the back of the head. And don't cut it too high. You'll kind of see what I'm talking about here. Just about like that. And then trim any other areas you want. I kind of trimmed up the chin a little bit. Nothing too crazy, just a few little spots here. So we're going to fill in this back area with some foam. Now in hindsight, I kind of overfilled mine a little bit, but it worked out. So just do whatever you think's going to work for you. Because this is where your hair is going to glue to. So what I'm doing here is I'm just laying out some strips of foam. Now these strips of foam, I'm going to make the teeth, and I'm also going to make the little triangle shapes, the little spikes for the top of the head, if you will. And here you can kind of see what I'm talking about. So the cheek pieces are fairly dry at this point, and you can kind of see how I poked my finger in to make a depression, and I kind of went back, trimmed them a little bit more. So one of the teeth will stick up and the other one will stick straight forward. And again, look at your reference pictures. And you can make yours however you want. The reference picture I use, that's just the way it was. So there, the foam around the back of the head, I just kind of pressed it in. In here, I'm just kind of checking the cheek pieces before I glue them on. And again, you're just going to glue these on with hot glue. There's nothing special. And here, I'm just kind of bending the shape how I want it. So here I'm going to make the teeth, and you've seen me do this before on other videos. Just rip off about an inch, roll it in your fingers, and you have teeth. Pretty easy. And you can make a lot of teeth pretty fast. You're not going to need a lot of teeth, but be careful because some of the teeth are going to be longer, especially on the cheek pieces, and then you're going to have smaller pieces. Now, here I'm going to make those little triangle shapes I was talking about. So all I did was just take off a piece of that strip foam that I had sprayed, and I'm just pressing it flat. Nothing magical here, and it doesn't have to be perfectly flat. Actually, if it's got a little concave or indentation, even better. It just gives it a more cohesive effect for your mask. I will say at this point, try to have all of your pieces ready before you start gluing anything. So here you can see the teeth and the cheek pieces. And here's the spikes. And again, don't try to make them perfect. So when it comes to gluing in your teeth, I'm going to suggest you work from the top, and you're going to put in your two top teeth. Again, hot glue. It doesn't take much. So I did the top teeth and then did all of the bottom teeth, and there was only 4. And you want to do these before you put on your cheek pieces. So when it comes to your cheek pieces, really make sure that you only put glue just on those areas where you're going to need to secure your cheek, if you will. So once I got that on, I put in the top tooth and then the bottom tooth on the cheek piece. And again, one points out and the bottom one will actually point up. And you're just going to do the same on the other side. Now you can kind of see your mask starting to take shape. So here, I'm just going to glue on those triangle pieces. And I ran a row along one side and then the other. And here you can kind of get a little better view. This was actually coming out really, really well. So for the hair, pretty simple. Backer rod from your local hardware store. And there you can kind of see the overall shape at this point. And if your foam's kind of pushed out in the back where you would put that extra layer, just push it in. Because you're going to glue your hair there, so no big deal. So now what I'm doing here is adding a little bit of glue on those flappy areas of the skin on the inside. It just kind of gives it a better overall effect. Nothing fancy. So here we're pretty much done with this part, and we're going to start working on these dreadlocks. So the backer rod comes in rolls, and I kind of got the bigger thickness. And they're 10-foot rolls, and you're just going to cut them up into about foot-long length sections. And then you're just going to kind of cut one end, as you can kind of see, just kind of make it pointy. Now, a really easy way to attach these is just to use some Loctite spray adhesive. Spray the part of your mask, and then spray the top part of your dreadlock and just push it on. It holds really well. But now you can really see the predator starting to come to life. So I was really getting pretty stoked. I really was thinking this came out great. Even better than I'd hoped. So here, I'm just going to spray it with a couple of coats of Plasti Dip. And again, Plasti Dip, it just kind of gives your whole mask a rubberized coating. And it also gives you just a really good base for your acrylic paint. So here you can really see how that Plasti Dip has adhered to the mask. And once you put on your detail paint, this is going to look so much better. And here you can kind of see what I'm talking about. So I just started detail painting here. And typically with me, I just use acrylic paints, nothing fancy. I will tell you guys, especially on this mask, build it up in layers. Don't be afraid to water down your paints, and just really take your time. Look at your pictures. You don't want to just slap on coats of paint and call it good. Take your time. This actually took me the longest part of making this mask. I probably spent maybe a good 2 hours just detail painting everything. And for me, it was fun. I got really excited the more layers of the acrylic paint, especially the watered down that I was putting on, and just really seeing it come to life. And I know you guys get tired of me saying it. Look at your detail photos. Those reference photos, those detail photos, those are going to help you so much when it comes to making these masks. I can't stress it enough. And the good thing about acrylic paint, and I've said it many times before, if you make a mistake, you can go back and fix it. But here you can see what I'm talking about. I really built up the colors and just really tried to make it look organic. And I just really thought this came out great. And for his hair, you always got those silver bangles. So basically just aluminum tape and cut it, put it on the hair, and you're done. Pretty simple. Great little project. I hope you guys try it. Again, I want to give a big shout out to Alan Perez for suggesting that I make this along with a couple of other subscribers. Just really did enjoy this one. Hope you guys do too. Try it. If you got questions, leave them in the comments. I'll be glad to help you. So, again, thank you to all the new subscribers. Thank you, everyone, for the wonderful comments. I appreciate it. And I hope you guys keep watching the channel because got a lot more projects coming. Thanks again, everyone.